All right, we meet again on TV47 Weekend Edition. It's my hope that you've had a beautiful, beautiful Saturday, ready and set to be updated as to what is happening right here and beyond. Karibu sana. It's always good having you joining us. My name is Linda Alela. We have lots lined up for you. And of course, I'll be assisted on the sign language interpreter side by Catherine Simaloi. And now as we get straight to it, the joint summit of the East African Community, EAC, and the Southern African Development Community, SADC, has directed resumption of the direct negotiations and dialogue with all state and non-state parties, and of course military and non-military, that is including the M23, as well as and under the framework of the Luanda-Nairobi process. Then this is one of the outcomes of the just concluded summit that was led by Kenya's President William Ruto. George Maringa reports on this story, or this developing story, as to what it will take to ensure that we address the concern of peace in the DRC. Take a look at that.
It is a summit that had been anticipated following a fortnight of renewed and escalating conflict in eastern DRC. Rwanda's President Paul Kagame arrived on Saturday to attend this. DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi chose to stay in Kinshasa and this summit virtually. President Ruto, who is also the chairman of the EAC, pointed out that the conflict in eastern DRC is a result of a wide spectrum of historical, economic and political issues, time for many decades, and spill across national and regional borders.
Excellencies, our presence here underscores our consensus that the time for action is now. The lives of millions depends on our ability to navigate this complex and challenging situation with wisdom, clarity of mind, empathy for the millions whose lives and livelihoods have been plunged into uncertainty, concerns for DRC's lost opportunity to accelerate its growth and development.
Bit of a technical hitch there, but we'll certainly be bringing you that story by George Maringa shortly. Now, more questions are emerging surrounding the death of Gilbert Kinyua, a patient who was allegedly murdered in his hospital ward at the Kenyatta National Hospital. And police are holding Kinyua's former wardmate as a person of interest as the family cries for justice. Samira Mohammed kicks off the bulletin tonight with that.
A somber mood. A broken family left shattered by the gruesome murder of their ailing kin at his hospital bed. A mad of unanswered questions, a battle to believe that justice will be delivered as desired.
But my question is, inawezaje fanyika kitu kama hiyo kwa hospitali yenye mimi naaminia mgonjwa wangu ako on a safe hand?
39-year-old Gilbert Kinyua was admitted at St. Mary's Hospital before he was transferred to Kenyatta National Hospital, where he was found on his hospital bed brutally murdered with his throat slit.
Bwana yangu kuuawa kwa njia yenye haifai. Amekuwa admitted here in Ward 7B, Neurological and Medicine Ward. Na amekuwa under treatment up to yesterday at 6 AM. Venye walinipigia simu wakaniambia natakikana kwa hospitali.
Kenya's family is now calling on the Kenyatta National Hospital administration to take responsibility and help on the investigations of the mysterious murder of their ailing kin and ensure justice is served for their slain kin.
Kuna mtu aliona ya Mungu haijatosha. Hiyo ndio haki yenye nataka, sababu I don't expect somebody in Kenyatta na hakuna mwenye akona ene crew ya venye kuliendelea, kumaanisha wote walikuwa wenda wazimu.
This as the family has called on the government and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to expedite on the investigations and ensure justice is delivered to their kin who was brutally murdered.
Enda hiyo haki itendeke haraka iwezekanavyo, sababu we are in a shock. Tutaanzia wapi, tumalizie wapi, imeji haki kujua ile kitendo ilitendekea bwana yangu ilitendeka kwa nini and nani alifanya hiyo kitendo.
Detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations combed the hospital for clues, where several people were questioned, with Kenya's hospital roommate being held as a person of interest. Samira Mohammed for TV47, Nairobi.
Right, the High Court decision on Friday, which ruled that the Kenya Kwanza coalition is not the majority in parliament, has now reawakening, or this has reawakened the ghost of the disputed 2022 presidential election results, with Siaya Governor James Orengo now saying that the court's decision is a confirmation that the results were announced, or that the results that were announced were not correct, and that the election went in Azimio's favor. Orengo is at the same time challenging Azimio leaders in parliament to come out and demand their rightful positions, as Paul Kirobi tells us.
The High Court decision on Friday, which ruled that the Kenya Kwanza coalition is not the majority in parliament, is becoming the latest political dog whistle, with friends and foe of the President Ruto-led coalition give mixed reaction. Siaya Governor James Orengo is now challenging the Azimio coalition to come out and demand their rightful positions in parliament.
We don't want career politicians. We have people with convictions. This is what will bring change to Kenya. Don't go to somebody's house and you're given a good meal, and then you forget that the next meal will not be the same.
The ruling now reawakening the ghost of the disputed 2022 presidential election results, with Orengo saying that the court's decision is a confirmation that the results were in Azimio's favor.
In 2027, Kenya wanted change a long time ago, and we were told that until we had a proper constitutional basis for running our elections, we will never succeed.
Safina party leader and business tycoon Jimmy Wanjigi weigh in on the matter. According to Wanjigi, the Azimio leaders should use this as an opportunity to removing President William Ruto from office by impeachment.
And that new game itafakia watu wengi sana hapa nchini. Itakuwa kama ile ya Trump. Itakuwa kama ile ya Trump. You know, I know munaombea baba aende AU. Even me, he's my friend. He has died with me. And I wish him the best in his personal ambitions. This is the time for true change.
The controversial tycoon warned that should they buy more time, President William Ruto will initiate a new political game plan that will act to his advantage. However, his allies are now advising the president to act with speed because this will cause distraction to agenda.
It's going to distract our most of the agendas of the members who are sitting now in parliament, because we need to deliver now to the people and not start talking about which party is which one is which party is which one.
The Azimio leaders were speaking during the burial ceremony of the late Richard Ochieng Olo, father to city lawyer Willis Otieno, at Murngenya village in Alego Usonga constituency. The burial ceremony was also attended by Machakos Governor Wavinya Ndeti, who on her part appealed to the Luo community to reciprocate this time round by supporting Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka's presidential bid come 2027 general elections.
Mimi nataka kuambia governor, mimi nimechaguliwa na chama ya Wiper na Kalonzo Musyoka ameamua kuomba kiti ya rais. Kwa hivyo sasa nyinyi ni marafiki zetu, tumetembea na nyinyi miaka 15, kujeni hata nyinyi mtembee na sisi.
Paul Kirobi, TV47.
It will be interesting to watch just what pans out, especially at this point where we're talking about the broad-based government and just how then they forge the way forward, and equally as we await to see what plays out on this February as the Azimio leader then proceeds to the African Union for that bid of the chairmanship. But away from it, and still on matters politics, a proposal by Kimilili Member of Parliament Didmas Baraza to have Kenyans vote using identity cards is proving divisive after leaders and lawyers differed on whether it's a plot to rig the 2027 general election. President William Ruto's allies argue that the proposal will simplify the voting process and reduce costs, while lawyers say the proposals would then require a referendum as it affects the sovereignty of the people and the independence of the IEBC.
A legislative proposal by Kimilili MP Didmas Baraza to amend the Elections Act and have Kenyans vote using identity cards as opposed to voters' card has caused jitters in opposition quarters on whether it's a rigging plot ahead of the 2027 presidential election or a push to have more Kenyans on the ballot.
I am going to propose an amendment to the Elections Act where it will no longer be a requirement by IEBC to register a Kenyan as a voter. As long as you have a national ID card, you are free to enter into a polling station and cast your vote in favor of the candidate of your choice.
Why the desire and the urgency to amend? It's because Mr. William Ruto finds himself in a fix. He doesn't know how to garner the majority, the 50+1 come 2027. Hata ukiona akijipiga kifua ni bure tu. He will not garner it. This is a scheme to rig the 2027 elections by Mr. William Ruto and his cohort.
President William Ruto's allies have welcomed the proposal, saying it will cut costs associated with the registration of voters, while arguing there is no need for Kenyans to register twice, given the ID is a primary document before one becomes a voter.
Even if you ask the Gen Zs, I think the Gen Zs are going to support this. There is no use of rigging election by trying to put that thing which Didmas Baraza brought in. Kipchumba Murkomen, as the Minister for Interior, did not bring this thing. He didn't mention himself. This is a member of parliament like myself. And those are the things we normally widely think about it and discuss about it so that we can deliberate. We can discuss and try to put it in the floor of the House, discuss and make sure that at least this is something which is going to be beneficial to all the people or not. This is not about the opposition or the ruling elite.
Lawyers argue the register of persons under the Ministry of Interior cannot be used by IEBC to verify voters, as it is illegal and violates the independence of IEBC in executing its mandate, while denying Kenyans the right to exercise their sovereign power as guaranteed by Chapter 1 of the Constitution.
The elections shall be transparent, shall be accountable, and shall be impartial. So the question, therefore, is that can the register of persons provide a free, fair elections? Can it lead us to an accountable elections? Can it lead us to a transparent election?
The National Registrar of Persons or something like that can be synergized with the electoral body. It could be very good, so that at least they should even be sharing a building, so that at least if anything they want, they just move down there.
In his letter to the National Assembly, the Kimilili MP targets to amend the Elections Act and deny IEBC the power to register voters, a proposal that lawyers argue will require a referendum as it touches on Chapter 1 of the Constitution, that sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya, and Chapter 15 of the Constitution that protects the independence of IEBC.
This independent body is Chapter 15 Commission. So we need to go to the Constitution and see whether these provisions I have mentioned, so as to bring into conformity with the pedestrian proposal by Mr. Baraza, whether the same can be achieved without informing or involving the people.
The push to have Kenyans vote using IDs coincides with President William Ruto's proclamation this week abolishing vetting for new ID applicants in northeastern Kenya and border counties. Apol Kamau, TV47.
Thank you, Apollo, for that comprehensive report. And chaos erupted at a funeral in Matungu constituency, Kakamega County, after supporters of Governor Fernandez Baraza, former Sports Minister Rashid Echesa, and Matungu Member of Parliament Peter Nabolindo clashed, disrupting the funeral service. And as Violet Auma reports, one police officer was injured in the violence, which has been strongly condemned by the family of the deceased.
The funeral of the late Gerald Odongo, the former chief of Chibanga location, Mayoni Ward in Matungu sub-county, turned chaotic as rival political factions engaged in violent confrontations. Tensions flared when Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza arrived at the funeral, where Matungu MP Peter Oscar Nabulindo and former sports CS Rashid Echesa were already present. Youth supporting their different leaders began shouting, escalating into a full-blown altercation. Chairs were hurled and mourners were forced to flee as the violence disrupted the ceremony, causing significant damage. The bereaved family, caught in the chaos, was compelled to move the body hurriedly for burial.
I thought it was a dream, only to find there's the Mr. Ekesa interfering with the people in the church, making a lot of noise, throwing chairs everywhere. Some people were even running away with the chairs, which was a big shame. I didn't mourn my husband the way I had planned to mourn him.
Meanwhile, the politicians have denied responsibility, each blaming the other for inciting the violence.
Ni kwamba sisi viongozi wengine wote tuliingia na hata security detail yetu ikabaki nyuma, ikafungiwa nyumba. Lakini governor alipokuja wakawachilia kila mtu paka nao vijana wenye wamebeba marungu. Sasa tunasema pengine hapo polisi wanatakana watupatie jibu kwa nini waliacha kiongozi mmoja naye akaingia na watu na viongozi wengine watu walikuwa nawacha watu nje.
Wewe kama uko na jambo la kuambia wananchi, organize mkutano yako. Sio kuja kwa matanga kuleta fujo.
Matungu acting OCPD Jen Pascal confirmed that one police officer was hurt during the fracas, saying that they have commenced investigation into the matter.
We only had one officer who was injured by members of the public who threw a stone and it hit him on the head. He was rushed to the hospital.
The funeral chaos has drawn widespread condemnation, with calls for the leaders to refrain from using funerals as political battlegrounds. Violet Auma, TV47.
All right, as crucial talks to halt the fighting and seek a permanent solution to the crisis in the eastern DRC take place, experts say that a political solution is the only way to achieve a permanent peace. And CGTN's Robert Nagila, reporting from Gisenyi in Rwanda along the border with Goma, takes a look at what is at stake.
It's not the first time M23 rebels have captured Goma, the capital of the strategic, mineral-rich North Kivu province. In 2012, the rebels marched into the city with barely a fight. But the occupation was short-lived. This time around, it is different. M23 shows little sign of leaving. Goma fell on Sunday after a fierce battle, some are calling a massacre that has claimed nearly 3,000 lives. Calls by the international community, including the UN, have done little to change the situation. On Monday, the rebels announced a ceasefire, which was violated within hours as they continued their advance to other towns. But some are still clinging on to hope. At one of the displacement camps at Mugunga in Goma, many are placing their hopes for peace on the joint mediation efforts between the Southern African Development Community and the East African Community taking place in Tanzania.
Bring us peace so that we can return to our homes. We are suffering a lot and the fighting has claimed many lives. We pray for peace.
Her sentiments are echoed by Musamali, a father of 6 who's been at the camp since February last year.
Tunahitaji amani We need peace so that we can return home and earn a living and send our children to school. Hunger is killing us in this camp.
Kinshasa has long accused neighboring Rwanda of backing the M23 rebels, a charge Rwanda denies. Kigali, on the other hand, accuses the DRC of providing a safe haven to the Democratic Forces of the Liberation of Rwanda, or FDLR, a militia that includes those involved in the 1994 genocide. Simon Mulongo, a security expert, says the ongoing mediation efforts will need to focus on a number of issues.
The first one being developing a unified strategy between the EAC and SADC on the Eastern DRC M23 problem. And this is also very important that they consider the question of the ceasefire so that they can create an environment for activities like humanitarian response to take place. And finally, I think very important is the question of political dialogue.
And political dialogue, he says, is the only way a solution can be achieved.
To find a solution to the M23 problem, there is need to have political dialogue, because through peaceful means, it is when you can go to the root causes of the problems in Eastern DRC. And that means you look at the key causes of this conflict, the drivers of this conflict, and the mobilizing factors, and deal with them decisively.
There are many lives riding on the success of these talks. How much they can achieve in 2 days remains to be seen. But an agreement could lead to a pause in fighting and renew hope of a political settlement that satisfies all parties. Bobat Nagela, CGTN, Gisenyi, Rwanda.
All right, thank you, Robert, for that. And we go back to our first story that, again, revolves around the DRC concern, where the joint summit of the East African Community and the Southern African Development Community has directed a resumption of direct negotiations and dialogue with all state and non-state parties, military and non-military, that is including the M23, and under the framework of the Luanda/Nairobi process. This is one of the outcomes of the just concluded summit that was led by Kenya's President William Ruto, as George Maringa reports.
It is a summit that had been anticipated following a fortnight of renewed and escalating conflict in eastern DRC. Rwanda's President Paul Kagame arrived on Saturday to attend the summit, while DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi chose to stay in Kinshasa but joined the summit virtually. President Ruto, who is also the chairman of the EAC, pointed out that the conflict in eastern DRC is a result of a wide spectrum of historical, economic and political issues which go back in time for many decades and spill across national and regional borders.
Excellencies, our presence here underscores our consensus that the time for action is now. The lives of millions depends on our ability to navigate this complex and challenging situation with wisdom, clarity of mind, empathy for the millions whose lives and livelihoods have been plunged into uncertainty, concerns for DRC's lost opportunity to accelerate its growth and development, and a steadfast commitment to peace and justice.
President Ruto has urged all parties in the conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo to cease hostilities and embrace dialogue.
We stand together to call on all parties to actualize the ceasefire, and specifically on the M23 to hold further advancement, and the armed forces of DRC to cease all retaliatory measures. An immediate ceasefire is the only way by which we can create necessary conditions for constructive dialogue and implementation of a comprehensive peace agreement.
Rwanda's President Paul Kagame is reportedly said to have continued pointing a finger at DRC, saying, and I quote, "DRC cannot just tell us to keep quiet when they are mounting a security problem against our country. Nobody can tell us to shut up. We have been begging DRC and its leaders for a long time. We have shared our issues and asked DRC to address them, but they have refused. Let us not just have another meeting like the many we have had. We can't go on forever massaging problems. What is happening there is an ethnic war that has been brewing for a long time, denying people's rights and then attacking Rwanda. You must recognize people's rights and take a step and resolve the issue. This war was started by DRC and not anything from Rwanda. It was just brought and put on our shoulders and we were told to own it. We can't own it. There is no question about it. Let us use this meeting in a manner that will put into account all these matters seriously and find a lasting solution. Presidents Samia Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud of Somalia, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, and Hakainde Hichilema of Zambia attended the joint EAC SADC summit. Other countries were represented by vice presidents, prime ministers, and cabinet ministers.
And so we call on all parties involved in the DRC conflict to positively engage in negotiations, prioritize the well-being of its people, and commit to peaceful coexistence.
Such joint initiatives must see us scale up bold and decisive actions to silence the guns on our continent, but most immediately implement lasting solutions to the escalating conflict and humanitarian crisis in the eastern DRC.
After a 2-day rigorous session that had been preceded by a ministerial conference and culminated in the summit of heads of state, the outcome was a 22-point communique. Will 2025 see the beginning of the end of the decades-long conflict in DRC? Time will tell. George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
President of the Republic of Madagascar.
Thank you, George. Now, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has chided President William Ruto over corruption in the country, a fight Kalonzo says the Kenya Kwanza government regime has failed terribly on. And further, the Wiper boss says the country deserves equity and development, whether any region voted for the government or not, insisting that the opposition will not stop criticizing the government on various matters in order to gain favors, saying that development is stipulated for in the Constitution.
You are left with an egg on the face, and you represent us. So when Mheshimiwa Mweke, your boss, is declared #2, the most corrupt leader in the world, that one even affects me, because he's supposed to be our president. The Constitution are clear. The right to development. Every part of this country has the right to development, and therefore we shall never beg Ruto to complete Kibwezi, Kitui, sasa hivi barabara vikite kwa siku Mebo, right? To Mwingi, Bondoni, Mwingi, through Katunga. This is the road connecting landlocked Ethiopia with Kenya, with our port of Mombasa. And Ruto doesn't know that. And you want us now, Mumba, Banendongo, Mukesi Ruto, tafadhali, the begging time for Kenya is over. You get your right.
Right, and a bit of politics, a bit of so much as to health, and so much more. Allow us to pay some bills, and then we'll bring you more news after that. Welcome back to TV47 Weekend Edition. Still so much lined up for you as to news, and we go straight to it, where Kasarani area member of parliament Ronald Karauri is calling for the increase of money allocated for education, saying that the money they have is not enough for needy students. Karauri, who has been giving scholarships checks for more than 10 million through the Karauri Foundation, has urged the leaders to support the underprivileged of all kinds, especially at this time when the cost of living is high. Beneficiaries have also requested the government to use this scholarship money to benefit others who are disabled and unable to pay fees.
Angeweza kusoma, bursaries kila mtu apate, lazima tukue tunapeana ECDF ikitoshana na population ya constituency. Hiyo ndio itafanya tusaidike kama Kasarani. Hatuwezi kuwa sisi tunapewa pesa bursary haitoshi, wengine wanapewa yote inatosha mpaka university. Kwa hivyo lazima tusukume. Haiwezi kuwa serikali inashindwa na kila kitu. Ilikuwa education ikuwe bure, si ndio? From primary to university. Sasa bado tunahangaika na hizi school fees.
Ajira amerudisha maombi yangu. Mtoto amekuwa kwa nyumba, aende shule. Lakini nashukuru Mungu sababu atarudi shule. Nimelipiwa school fees yote, nilikuwa na deni kubwa.
Shikia sheki yangu ya mtoto wangu ambaye ako Lenana school ya shilingi 45,140. Narudishia shukrani kuu kwa Captain Ronald Karauri kwa maana ametenga kiwango kikubwa sana.
All right, and as the country continues to mourn the fallen veteran journalist Mambo Mbotela, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has expressed his sadness, of course, following the demise of this veteran journalist. And of course, Odinga, who condoled with the family on Saturday, eulogized Mbotela as a dedicated public servant who spent his life informing, educating and entertaining Kenyans through his informative programs, as Chichi Josephine details.
After the announcement of the death of a veteran journalist, Leonard Mambo Mbotela, different political leaders in the country took to social media to mourn him. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga was among the leaders who not only took to social media but visited the family of Leonard to condole with the family, eulogizing Mbotela as a dedicated public servant.
We lost a Kenyan patriot, somebody who did not think too much of self, but thought of others, and also taught people how to live with each other.
Raila also eulogized him as a social person and a selfless person who lived well with everyone.
He was also a social person. He had so many friends, and you're going to see many of them come.
While noting that Mbotela was in and out of hospital, Jimmy Mbotela, the first son of Mambo Mbotela, eulogized his late father as a passionate person and a friend.
In his old age, he developed some complications, especially he had this pressure. His pressure was a bit low. So we took him to the doctors at the hospital. They were trying to regulate his pressure, but he developed other complications. And then also with age, his immunity, kidogo, he couldn't make it.
The 84-year-old journalist, who many recognized for his iconic J. Huniungwana show on KBC, died on Friday, February 2025. After a long illness, burial preparations are underway. Chichi Josephine, TV47.
May Mbotela's soul continue to rest in peace. And a family in Butere Sub-County, Kakamega County, is in anguish following the mysterious disappearance of their loved one, who was allegedly abducted by unidentified armed individuals in early December last year. According to his wives, Beatrice Namatsi and Christine Amakobe, Stephine Amunze was allegedly abducted on December 9th by unknown individuals who claimed to be police officers.
Wakaenda na simu 6. Sasa kwa hiyo sikusanya masimu, nilipotoka hapa nikaingia hapa, wakanifungia ndani ya jikoni na watoto. Na wengine walikuwa hapa. Sasa kutoka kuhangaika kuleta mtoto afungue mlango, nikapata ameenda.
Sasa na sisi pia tunakaa na hofu na tuko na watoto wanasoma, hatujui vile watoto watasoma, hatuna fedha ya kupeleka watoto shuleni. Kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali itusaidie kutafutilia penye mzee ako, hata kama ako na makosa, afadhali mtu akipatikana na makosa wampeleke kotini, alafu astakiwa afunge. Hata jamii mnaweza kuwa na amani, ndio roho zetu hata zitulie. Hatuna amani, hatukuli, tunakaa tukiwaza.
Kama ana makosa, wangemshika, wampeleke kotini, hahukumiwe. Tutajua alikosa hii kitu na amepelekwa kotini, amepelekwa jela, tutakuwa na amani.
Sina mtoto. Huyo ndio mtoto wangu wa kwanza, ndio wa misho. Ndio anakulisha mimi. Nimesikia mbaya. Mtoto kama mtu ameshikwa, ashikwa na neno. Nimetafuta, nimeshindwa. Jameni, mimi naomba serikali inisaidie. Nijue mahali ya mtoto wangu yuko.
Most of the cases that we detected during the month of November and December, cases were processed and suspects were taken to court in various courts. For example, we had some animals stolen from Bungoma County, Bumurasam County. Those ones were taken to Kabura police station. Those ones who were from Siaya, the suspects were taken to Siaya County. Those ones from within Kakamega County, their cases were taken to Mbutere Law Courts, and they are pending before court.
All right, the county government of Embu has suspended a clinical officer at Kipitiri Level 4 Hospital in Beere South constituency after a woman gave birth on the hospital veranda without professional assistance. The incident occurred on a Thursday night, causing an uproar from the public who accused the devolved unit of negligence. Health CEC Jamal Runyenje regretted the incident and no excuse was good enough for a woman to give birth in such a manner at a place where she ought to have been accorded assistance, they say. Speaking after visiting the woman who was rushed to another facility by well-wishers, Jamal said they had also suspended a night guard who denied the woman entry into the facility. He said this should serve as a warning to all staff that act of diligence will not be condoned. And of course, Kenya National Union of Nurses Embu Branch Secretary, that is Macharia Kanderi, said they should also be given a chance to respond to the allegations before taking the drastic move.
Jana usiku saa 4 nilipokea ujumbe, kulikuwa kuna skirmishes hapa katika hii hospitali na kulikuwa na kesi ya mama alikuwa amekuja na akazuiwa kuingia katika hospitali na mhudumu ama watchman. Nimechunguza ile story na kusema ukweli mimi sijaridhika na hakuna excuse yoyote ninaweza kupata ambaye itasababisha mama apate mtoto kwa varanda ya hospitali. So tumekubaliana na hata governor amesema ule mhudumu alikuwa kwa supposed kumuattend aende nyumbani na hata huyo watchman pia aende nyumbani kutoka siku ya leo. Na hakuna kesi baadaye.
Kama kuko na officer atakuwa suspended kwa sababu ya gap za hospitali, they should wanatakana kufuata procedure ile inafaa ili pia mfanyikazi aweze kusikika.
3 women narrowly escaped death as a mob bayed for their blood but were rescued by police who were called in. The suspects, who are believed to have been traveling or have traveled from Webuye town in western Kenya, were caught shoplifting in a Talei supermarket, a local supermarket located in Makutano town in Kapenguria. In what seemed to be a well-coordinated approach, one lady kept watch as the other 2 picked items from the shelves. Their mission, however, failed after a lady operating in the same supermarket noticed them after seeing one of them trying to hide a 5 kg cooking oil. One woman was able to escape after sensing the danger. Security personnel at the supermarket apprehended the women as they attempted to escape from the scene of crime. The two women are being held at Kapenguria police station, while the two in their mid-20s concealed the stolen goods between their legs in their long flowing skirts within seconds of taking them off the shelves. And speaking to the press, residents criticized the action, saying it was a shame for women to engage in such theft. Meshak Kakuko, a resident of Kapenguria, said the ladies might have been desperate to provide for their families, given that they were determined to steal food items.
Leo imekuwa ni ajabu sana. Ndani ya supermarket kuna wamama ambaye wametoka Webuye. Wameweza kuingia hapa Talai supermarket, wakajifanya ni kama wanunuzi. Na vile walikuwa wananunua, kuna msichana mmoja alikuwa mwerevu. Aliona mmoja akichukua hii inaitwa deep fry, akaingiza kwenye mapacha 5 liters. Na sehemu nyeti, ni sehemu nyeti. Na sisi West Pokot hatujawahi kushuhudia maneno kama haya.
Kweli kabisa tumeshuhudia wamama siku ya leo wanapatikana supermarket, wanachukua vitu na kuingisha kwa miguu ndani. Jambo ambaye West Pokot hajawahi onekana vitu kama hiyo. Wamama, ninawaomba mufanye kazi, muache tabia ya kwenda kwa supermarket na kuiba vitu.
Tangu alikuja akanichukua, tunaenda matanga. Sasa akaniambia, hapa tunaenda matanga, tunaenda na kitu huko. Sasa akasema twende nayo matanga.
Alafu ikakuaje?
Sasa mimi vile niliingia, sijui penye ilikuwa. Sasa akaniambia tunifuate. Ndio akanipea. Sifuata nimemsingo nitaka kuchukua.
Sports news brought to you by Maybet. Bet bila stake. Predict the outcome of 8 pre-selected games and win up to 100,000 shillings. Only at maybet.com.
The Kenya Premier Leaders Police FC settled for a barren draw against Tusker FC on Saturday evening. Elsewhere, defending champions Gor Mahia thrashed Mathare United FC 2-1 at Dandora Stadium. In other matches, Bidco United and Nairobi City Stars match ended into a 1-1 draw, while Bandari defeated Sofapaka 1-0 at Mbaraki Stadium.
I think from our side tumejaribu to play football, and I think our first goal was through creativity from the wide. Then I think the first goal out of maybe experience, we made a mistake and we were punished, we were made to pay. Na pia katika bao ya pili. So basically ni kwamba Gor ametumia experience na amepata their 3 points.
I am not satisfied with some small tactical things, okay? How to release the pressure first half, yeah? We invite them to our half and we receive goal, we concede a goal for all ball possession, right? It was out, we complicate, no, we practice this. You must go up with a midfielder to release pressure. You need to be more vertical, and then you need to connect, support, because it's very difficult.
Ulinzi Starlets registered a 1-1 draw against Kenya Police Bullets on a Saturday evening. Elsewhere, Kibera Soka women thrashed Bunyore Starlets 5-0, and Kisumu All Starlets and Bungoma Queens the match ended into a barren draw, while Zetic Sparks and Kisped settled for a 2-2 draw. Tomorrow, we will see Wadadia FC playing against Trinity Starlets at Mumias Sports Complex, while Mombasa Olympics FC battle against Vihiga Queens at Makande Primary School.
3 points, but hatujapata 3 points. Tunashukuru for the point tumepata, considering that pia tuko away na ilikuwa derby. So the 1 point tumeridhika nayo, though tungetaka 3, but we are good with the 1 point. Naweza sema tulianza first half on a slow, Tulianza first half on a slow, by the time tunarudi to pick up in the game, pick up second half, na ukiangalia vile tumecheza first half na second half ni totally different. I think so far with the signing tuko comfortable na watu wenye tumeleta. Singekuwa na any comment on kama tunaleta mtu mwingine, but so far tuko comfortable na wenye tumeleta.
Kwa kufanya so tulikuwa sure, because unajua kwa ball ukifanyia mazoezi lazima itawaka. So tulikuwa sure. Kusema kweli kama maji aje reach full potential yake. Yeah, niko na kazi bado. Niko na kazi na nashukuru at least ni coachable. Na football intelligence yake pia iko juu.
Crossing over to the international scene, Manchester City avoided an FA Cup giant killing after coming from behind to